Hello everyone, welcome to Crafting with Lee. Today I'm going to show you how you can make your own wooden signs for your wreaths. If you sell your wreaths, this is a great way to keep costs low. I wanted to make several signs at the same time, so I bought an 8-foot long piece of wood at Lowe's. These are the measurements for it. And I had a friend of mine cut them at 12 inches. I'm only making 5 signs today. I'm using some Dollar Tree sandpaper just to smooth out any rough spots and to get the sides. I do suggest making these in bulk. Just because you have to use so much stuff, it's easier to get them all done at once. I am making 5 today. I should have made 8. You can also make them to order. Alright, I'm going to use some Wreath Classic Penetrating Wood Stain Red Mahogany color. I really loved this darker color. It's going to look nice on the farmhouse wreaths I'm going to make. You can use any stain color that you like. I had never used stain before, so I'm going to cover the entire piece of wood before I wipe it off. You don't have to do that. Once you cover the front, you can just wipe it off and then flip it over. I did not know that. I also suggest using gloves because if you get it on your fingers, it's hard to get off. And I'm just using a foam brush to apply it. And I'm putting it on pretty thick. It covers so well. I'm also doing the back. I'm not sure why I did the back. You probably don't have to. And since I didn't have any gloves, I'm just using a butter knife. Use what you have. I do suggest making sure you find the side of the wood you want to use, because like some of them have gouges in them, or the edges could be messed up. There could be bumps. There's just certain things that you wouldn't want on the front of your sign. So I just went through and picked the pretty side. And now I'm just wiping it away with an old stained pillowcase that I had. I just cut it into pieces. I liked it because it didn't have any lint. Alright, now I'm just using Waverly white chalk paint to paint a couple of these. Again, I painted the back. You don't have to. And this chalk paint covers so well, so you don't need a lot. One of the signs, I wasn't sure which way I was going to go with it, and I ended up staining it. So I had 3 stained and 2 painted. And when I flip it over, I'm just going to paint again because it came off a little bit on the piece of wood. Alright, this is the third one that I stained. I wasn't sure what to do with it yet, and I'm just going to dry brush over it with some white. I'm just dabbing it off on this piece of paper. I wanted to still see the wood through it, but I wanted a different color. And in the end, it's kind of a creamy, grayish brown color. I don't do the back of it, but I do the sides. And I'm just wiping it away so you can still see the wood. I think this one was my favorite. And you can paint these any way you want. Alright, this is what they look like. I really love the middle one. Alright, I use my Cricut to make the vinyl letters on the wood. If you stencil, you don't have to do that. I'm no good at stenciling. So what I'm going to do is pick a square. I'm going to unlock it and put in the dimensions of my wood. And then I'm going to use that as a template to add the words and any decorations that I have on it. This sign, I wanted farmhouse across the center. So I'm just going to find a font that I like. I really liked this font, but it was too far apart, so I'm going to use the letter spacing button to move them closer together. And I'm pretty happy with the way this looks. I'm going to go back and change the font color. I'm not sure why I did that. That's just because that's what color I'm going to cut it out as. And then I just go to my Cricut and I cut it out. And I'm just going to show you the other ones, how I designed them. This one has some flowers on the side. This one has a bee. All right, after I cut out all of my letters, I'm going to have to weed them. I like to leave them on the mat so the vinyl doesn't curl. And I'm just cutting away the excess because I can still use that. I'm using my pokey tool. One side of it has a pokey part and the other side is like a scoring ball. And this helps with, like the scoring ball will push things down, and then the pokey part, I can poke through things. You also need transfer tape. You don't need transfer tape, but it comes in handy if you have transfer tape. I think I've seen people use painter's tape too. Transfer tape's just nice because you can see through it. And mine has grids on it. The black vinyl I'm using is not Cricut vinyl. I liked it because it was matte. It wasn't really shiny. All the other vinyl I use is Cricut vinyl. I'll link in the description what kind of vinyl it is. I can't remember the name offhand. Take your time doing this. I have it sped up, but take your time and don't rush, because when you rush, you'll rip letters. I've done that. Now I'm just measuring how much transfer tape I need. All right, I'm gonna peel it off, and you don't have to peel the whole thing off and then add it. You can do a piece at a time. I just find this easier. And then I'm gonna very slowly add it to the lettering that I have. Now I'm gonna place this over top, and I'm gonna use a ruler to really brayer it down. I didn't want to accidentally scrape the tape and tear it, because I was really pushing hard. All right, in the same way, when you're weeding it, you want to pull back on itself. I kind of even touch, like when I pull it back, my finger is touching I guess the other part of it. I'm just peeling it back onto itself. And that makes sure it comes off clean. All right, this is the tiny little beehive that I cut out. And I'm going to zoom in so you can see all the little things that I had to weed out. There's just little lines in each bumpy part. And then there's a doorway. And this pokey tool made it so easy. All right, I do not suggest doing it this way. I should have done it a different way. I was lucky that it didn't get stuck. But you should keep the backing on the part that you're not adding another color to, because mine ends up sticking to the Cricut mat and the table. And you'll see in a second that I have a lot of trouble pulling it up, because it could end up pulling off your lettering. I was lucky that it didn't. But if you had had the backing on the left part, then it wouldn't have been an issue. And now I'm just laying it over my arm because I don't want it to stick again. And since this is going on wood, you really don't want to lose the sticky part on the vinyl. All right, now I'm just lining it up the way I want it to look. And the grid lines help a lot. Really take your time, because like I said, once it sticks and you peel it back up, it loses a lot of the sticky. I'm very slowly laying it down. I didn't use the backing paper on this time because I'm not pressing down as hard. But if you're going to press really hard, I suggest putting something over it, because I have stabbed into the clear before. And you see how I'm pulling back on it? Like I'm pushing down on the wood a little bit as I'm peeling it back. That makes it so much easier. And you go slowly so you can see if anything pops up. And your fingernail works great too. And this one had teeny tiny little legs and antenna. So I wanted to be very careful. In the lettering, I was supposed to attach it together, and I didn't, so each letter is separate. You can't really see in the end, but you can tell when you're peeling it off. And save your paper, because I ended up using that 3 times. Alright, I wanted to test on the back if this black gel pen would show up, because I want to make like flight trails from the bees. So I'm just doing dotted lines. And the gel pen worked great. I'm always trying to find a use for them. That's what it looks like up close. And I decided to go in and color the white parts of the beehive. This is what it looks like when it's finished. Alright, for this sign, I am marking 1/4 of an inch in on both sides. No, 1/2 of an inch in on both sides. And now I'm going to mask the inside of it because I want the outside to be a lot darker. So I'm going to sand it down. My masking tape had some weird bumpy parts all through the roll. So I'm just going to cut it short of that and cut that off and then add the rest. You don't have to do that if your masking tape isn't messed up like mine. Alright, after I've covered the center, I'm going to sand away some of the paint because I want the stain to be able to show up again. I'm sanding pretty hard because I want it to come up. It didn't really come up. Alright, I'm going to remask it because the sandpaper roughed it up where it wasn't a good seal, which didn't matter in the end because the stain goes right under it. So I ended up having to repaint the middle anyway, which I was going to do anyway because I want it to be lighter. But if you're not planning on repainting it, just know you'll probably have to if you stain the outside or any part of it with tape. It might just be my tape though. Alright, I go over it a couple times to get it a lot darker. And you really can't see as I'm doing it, but once you remove the tape, you can really tell that it's made it darker. This is the farmhouse one where I put farmhouse in the center. But see how the stain went under? It's probably my tape. So then I just taped the edges, the opposite of what I had taped before, and I painted the middle white and wiped it off. Yeah, see right here. I'm just dry brushing and then I'll wipe it off. And then later I take my ruler and I draw black lines where the two colors separate, just because it kind of makes the middle stand out more, like it's 3D. And I can take my pokey tool and scrape away some of the paint that bled over into the other side. But I really like the way this turned out. And I just heat set it so that my vinyl will stick to it very well. I wanted it to be really dry. This is what it looked like in the end. I used some E6000 and some little decorative things that I had to add to the corners. This was my least favorite sign that I made. The yellow vinyl did not stick at all. I loved the Be Blessed part, but when I used it on a wreath, I removed that vinyl and I added some really pretty black and white gingham ribbon, just some really thin ribbon, and it looked pretty. So this is how you should add another detail to your vinyl. Keep the backing paper on that part and then add the other element that you want to add. Sometimes your backing paper wants to pull up the sticker, so I just go to the opposite side and it pulls right up. When I added the flowers, I put them on in the wrong spot, so I'm just going to remove the flowers and I'll put them on separately. I just stick them to the side. This is why it's good to have the see-through transfer paper. Alright, now I'm just going to add the hey y'all. This white really pops on the darker wood. And then very carefully peel it away. You can see how good it sticks. It's pretty awesome. Alright, and then to add my flowers, I'm just going to stick them by hand. I do use a ruler to make sure I line them up right. Alright, that's what it looks like finished. Okay, so for this one, I wasn't sure which way I was going to go, and I decided I wanted it to be more white than wood, but I did want the wood to come through in different places. So I am just wiping just a few things on the edges, and now I'm going to take my ruler and my pokey tool, and I'm going to scrape the paint off, and it makes it look like it has wood planks. That line was a little messed up. I go back and paint over it and then re-scratch it because it was all wobbly. And then I'm just adding the Southern Charm that I cut out. This was a lot thinner lettering, so I did use the score side of my pokey tool to really press it down before I peeled it off. And I wanted to do these green ones separate because I had to have them perfectly lined up on the edges. And then I sandpapered around the edge. And that's what it looks like finished. These are all the wreaths I made. And now I'm going to take it outside and use this matte clear spray paint. And I spray paint the back. Again, I don't know why. And sorry if the video is messed up. This was on my phone. And then I'm going to spray paint the front. And you just want to do an even coat and get all of the sides. And this has some UV protectant in it, so it won't mess up when you have it hanging outside. And that's it. That's how I make my own wooden signs for my wreaths. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. Or you can contact me at craftingwithlee@yahoo.com. Thank you so much for watching. And if you learned anything or liked my video, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.